Hello, Scott.
Hello, Perry.
Thank you
Got to
for
start
being
it somewhere,
here.
or we'll be talking about what we were talking about that won't really benefit anybody. So let's move on.
Okay. Oh, Scott, can I start from questions today?
Sure, of course, absolutely.
Okay. The first question from Shannon Sweeney. I'm confused. You say that whatever action you put out brings back an equal and opposite reaction. I'm fine with it if it pertains to evil, but this you're saying that when we do good, it creates a backlash of evil. I was hoping good would expand any eliminate darkness.
It's clear that this person has not yet gone into the depth of my work at all. They're very much on the surface. They really don't know. If they had listened to any of these radio shows even a little bit. The problem, I think, this is a Thai person, right?
No, from our show, I think she's from America.
Okay, if she was really paying attention, watching shows, and going to or reading the book, The Series Agenda, she would know that every action creates an equal and opposite reaction. It's the basic law of physics in the physical universe. And as long as that person is operating in such a state of consciousness that where she's creating both good and bad imagination from her own being, then she's going to be experiencing good and bad repercussions in her life. When she begins to work with the hue, we don't work with the positive and negative. We don't work with the law of physics or gravity or space or the limits of the speed of light. We work outside and beyond all that nonsense. Then you start creating with the hue through you, which puts the positive and negative, good and bad, in harmony, and then creates things without having a cause and an effect back on you. Even when you put out good energy from the positive stream that's in the lower dimensions only and the negative stream, when you put out good here, it doesn't come back bad, it comes back good. When you put out negative energy here, it comes back negative. Whatever you put out comes back. She should know that. So if she's in one form or another during the day or during her life, because she's been brought up on this earth to be misdirected and brainwashed, to use her imagination, which is very powerful, to see a great good future for herself, and yet be terrified of the end of the world, like an Armageddon, the end of the world, nuclear bombs going off. She's going to be putting out two streams of energy at the same time, opposed to each other. You can't have it good for your family and the end of the world at the same. They neutralize each other and ground the energy to the earth. That person cannot make progress that way. They stay stuck on the earth, little awareness until they die. And then they are compelled to come back here and reincarnate again. That's why working with the hue gets a person out of that trap and starts waking up their higher faculties. The higher faculties, the wisdom that comes from being an Atma, co-creating with the source behind all life, is not something that the higher faculty is working with. That is the only way you can get higher faculties to work with you. It's like telling this omnipresent living force, I want an Armageddon, but I want a good family life too. And that omnipresent energy will co-create both things. It co-creates with us whatever we put out. It's a teacher. So when you begin to become more enlightened, you no longer put out negative thoughts and fear. Fear and doubt, speculation and theory are negative emotional streams. And they only produce fear and doubt and speculation and debate and theory. There are no answers or change in any of those negative emotions. The higher faculties, the higher awareness that creates the circumstances to get a person out of this unconscious trap on earth only works when that being stops using the imagination in negative ways. That's the only way it can work, which requires that each person have some discipline on what they allow themselves to imagine or not.
That's hard part, Scott.
Because people are not brought up to do that on this planet. No, but on other planets, it's easy.
And
Right?
because of the environmental, people around, can make us like have
People
that.
say they want to know truth, but they're very uncomfortable actually confronting it. People on Earth, in general, are terrified of what's out there. Even God. They're terrified of going to hell or heaven if they make the slightest mistake. They have only religion to believe in something until they die, because they don't get shown anything until they're gone. That's what they think. All the answers will come when they leave this life. That isn't true. It's not true at all. You have to become enlightened or aware of who you are as a being, not a body, first of all, while you're alive on a planet like Earth, to be what you'd call enlightened. And enlightenment is nothing more or less than being able to know what you are that is not the body, that is the real you, and how to move it around the multidimensional universe and how to co-create with the source. And that only works if you're putting out intentionally and consciously that which will be of an uplifting, beneficial value to all life. And it can't just be done for all life on Earth. It has to be done for all life in the entire creation. That is the nature, the true nature of a human being, not the human body. That should answer a question.
Yes.
If she goes and reviews some of these videos more deeply, and if she gets the book, the series, and she reads it, or has someone translate it, either on Earth in English, or put it under a pillow, and she'll go out of her body at night, which she does every night when she puts it to sleep anyway. Growing up on a planet where you're not trained to even think about bringing back any awareness, you don't, because the higher faculties are not on, they're turned off. People aren't even trained at birth how to use any of that, so they don't. And they're terrified of leaving their body. They've been taught, ooh, if you get out of your body, the devil will get you. Psychic beings will get you. Ooh, no. The fact is, the devil and psychic beings and negative beings, extraterrestrials, already got them in a past they don't remember and stuck them on this earth with no memory. That's the truth people are terrified of confronting, because what was done to them was not pretty. That's how they ended up here. It doesn't mean there's not a God or some source or any of that. It means that there are beings that people on earth worship as God today that are running planes below the void, not the upper world, that are tyrants, propping themselves up as the source, the true source, demanding people worship them or else. And that's a trap for soul, for the Atma. And it's our job to get out of that trap. And in the process of getting out of that trap, create new ways of doing things while we're doing it for the benefit of all life. It's unselfish. The true nature of the Atma, or what we are, isn't a selfish entity. Its true nature is to desire and then create new ways of doing things with many others capable of doing it for the well-being of all life. And that's what can change the lower dimensions from negative and positive into something else. That's what can change a planet as backward as Earth is and transform it. The beings on this planet have to wake up in mass at some point and co-create, giving permission to beings who are really well experienced at it to come here and change this place. And they will. It's not something they need to learn how to do in the future. They've done it hundreds of millions of years ago even. Getting rid of disease, turning on genomes on the DNA, living 1,000 years, teaching people to get in and out of their bodies while they're alive. That's nothing for them. It's easy stuff. People on Earth are being lied to by every government on this planet every day. They're not being told the truth. The truth is that we have never been alone in the universe, and there are billions of planets with human and other life on them, more advanced than us, and we might as well get aware of it, because sooner or later it's going to show up here, and people are going to have to deal with it, no matter what they believe. That's what will change people, and people on Earth need to be prepared for that, and they are being prepared for it. It's called disclosure. It has nothing to do with governments disclosing, because they won't do it. They're too afraid to do it. Something else from beyond Earth has to help them in a way to help them to do it safely. That's the only way it can be done, or there's just panic and destruction, all kinds of nonsense. The way that was planned at some point after World War II to have a new world order or government was not being planned to have a benevolent, kind government, but a totalitarian one. That failed. It never got established. Didn't work. Something intervened to prevent that. You don't have governments working together yet very well, but they never join forces to dominate all people and completely squash them flat. That never happened. That's never going to happen here. The people that tried to make that happen understand that now, that they're never going to be allowed to do that. I'm trying to tell people what's really changing behind the scenes on this planet that was never expected. It was never prophesied. Nostradamus didn't know it. Spiritual adepts of the past didn't know it, because what's changed recently has changed everything as far as the future destiny of this earth and many other worlds, including the entire lower dimensions of time and space, without destroying them, but changing how they're ruled or governed. This is different. Something new is underway along that line. My work is specifically and only focused precisely at that. I don't get into debate with other people. I don't debate things with UFO people or disclosure people or any of those other people on Earth. I don't associate with them. I don't go to conferences with them. I don't have time to do any of that and get into fighting over who's right and all that nonsense. To do what I'm doing effectively with the beings from other worlds who have never grown up here, I can't get involved in all that. It's just negative. Real disclosure does not throw stones at other researchers or UFO people or people that experience. So many of those people in those communities are throwing stones at each other right now, and they don't realize while they're doing it, it's negative, and something more negative has them caught. It's called divide and conquer. And as long as they're playing that game for money or followers, they're losers. That means whatever it is they're doing is playing into the hands of people who run the world today. And people need to stop doing this and start sending out an energy that dominates positive and negative and harmonizes them and stops the whole karma Maya thing. Maya, karma, pay for everything. Lords of karma, get sent back to life by an archangel because it's good for you not to remember anything. Have another life. That's nonsense. It doesn't produce any constructive change in the atma or soul of that being. Just traps them again. I'm going to tell you the truth. There's no money involved here in my doing these shows. The only thing that's sold is 2 books, and they are interdimensional doorways. And I'll leave it at that.
I have a second question, Ken. Oh, sorry, Scott,
Yeah,
from SM, okay? She asked a question.
But I don't know who he is.
Uh-huh.
Criticize him, don't know him one way or another. I've never watched the show. So, I know you had a show with him.
Yes.
Yeah, but no, I don't know.
Okay, apologize. Okay, the second question from SM, she's Korean, okay? When did humans start to eat animals? And is human eating
reptilians commanded and implanted them to do it against their will so that they could justify eating humans. And that's way back in history that people don't know about, only on Earth and out in the universe. That is not done anymore. But people are left with a subconscious programming on Earth. That's important because it isn't natural or normal. They think it is. I don't get into the subject of how to eat because my work specifically is not about telling people they can't get advantage from what I do if they don't stop eating meat or something like that. If someone asks me, which you've pretty much just done, what I do, I tell them this: I don't eat animals, I don't eat seafood. I don't kill anything, simply because I know full well that it's my responsibility in eternity to care for lower, what you would call lower life forms, and help them evolve. Atmas run animal and mammal bodies just like they run human bodies, the real being, the soul. Animals have feeling and hurt and love and have everything like humans, but they don't have the sophisticated nervous system that we have to communicate it, and yet people see it all the time in their pets. I don't eat those things because I'm not willing to kill those things. I don't eat anything I'm not willing to gut, kill, look it in the eyes. Moo, aren't you a nice cow? Slit its throat, gut it, cut it open, chop it up, bleed it, stick it in a fridge, ship it to a store and call it meat and then fry it on a grill and eat it. I don't do that because we're responsible in eternity as beings for what animals do on this planet. Animals eat each other, tear each other apart, some of them because of what people do. They're required to look up to us. People on earth are not fulfilling their purpose in this regard, quite the contrary. I don't blame people for it because they were programmed against their will at some time in their background before they found themselves born here to be like that. And this goes back in galactic history, back before a great war ended 500,000 years ago. The big war isn't in the future, like people are talking about on the internet and all that stuff. There's no evidence of that in the sky or space. There's a war out there. None. Because if it was, people on Earth would already be dead, or mostly involved in the middle of that. So, no. There was a great war in this universe long ago, and a treaty was created after the bad guys lost. Been a Cold War going on with bad guys trying to seize beings and property around the corner, covertly sneaking around. They're most of the time caught, but not always. Ships have been shot down on Earth, extraterrestrial craft, but not by our military. People should think about what I just said clearly. What does that mean? All that UFO stuff, it's all classified. The National Security Act in the United States under Truman, and every country, 35 countries, created these acts so they could just deceive the people and not tell them what they know, that extraterrestrials not only exist, not only are they coming here, but there's good and bad, and the bad ones are a threat, or were. And they were very scared to tell the people that after World War II, because then they couldn't get people to feel calm and have babies and rebuild a destroyed world damaged by that war. So they classified it. And they kept classifying and spending trillions to keep the lid on that. They controlled the news networks worldwide. There is no free press on this planet yet. What comes out is observed, overviewed by certain agents. And if they don't want something to come out in Hollywood, or they don't want something to come out on CNN or Fox or anything else, some corporate head gets a call from the government, says, don't do that. That's classified. You'll go to jail. Don't print it. And they won't. They had to do that in order to keep funding into black projects to reverse engineer extraterrestrial technology during the former struggle with the Soviet Union. They did the same thing. You have to control news networks in order to classify something, don't you? Or somebody will leak it out. It's common sense, really. People don't realize that when NASA was created, and Werner von Braun, an ex-Nazi SS, killed a lot of people, slave labor, Punamunda, and all these camps. He was put in the head of NASA, pardoned, and given this great position in the United States, him and other Nazi scientists, and in Russia. This is a fact. It's not conjecture. This is what happened. And they created two systems, a public system, Russia did the same, China, and a private classified space program that did not work together, aren't the same. It's common sense. At some point, well, what was created in the National Security Act and others around the world was probably done at the time they thought for the best reasons. But it's been going on now for far too long. It's just a bad habit they're stuck in. And most of the people in it don't want to do it anymore. I can tell you that, they don't. They just don't know how to tell the truth to people anymore, safely. So they're getting some consulting done from off-world, from beings who know how and have gone through the process of harmonizing planets that are whacked out. And they're getting a lot of help. And they're still very cautious, but part of the bylaws of what was created at that time was to disclose fully what they were keeping classified about extraterrestrials when they felt the public would not panic. We're way past that now. Public isn't going to panic. They just have to be told the truth in the right way. Honesty is the only way this planet and its people will ever be allowed to play among the stars. Ever. Because tyrants don't run this galaxy anymore. And that any hidden government people here are not going to get any backing from them anymore. There's only one direction they can go now. And it's in a good, uplifting, constructive, loving, positive direction. Everything and everyone on this earth is going to go through some kind of change. Because they don't even remember who they are now, including the classified people. Royal family, they don't remember who they are. Are you kidding? Ask the Queen of England if she remembers her past lives on other planets. They're not. And that's not normal. So the world has to go through some pretty remarkable changes. It's not a problem as to how to change it. The problem is getting people to ask for it consciously, to want it. Because the great systems that are run out there beyond Earth are run by benevolent, kind, very advanced beings, far more technologically and certainly more spiritually advanced than people on Earth. There are no religions out there whatsoever like what is represented on Earth about the Supreme Source. They are only created and developed on this planet by tyrant kings, controlling priests through our history. And that's obvious if you study the history objectively and really look at it. The source that people refer to on Earth as the Supreme Being is not even located in the lower dimensions where tyrants play. You have to go beyond the void known in certain religions on Earth. You have to get above it into the upper worlds that are not part of time and space and matter. They are energy. They're not made of molecules and atoms. And if you really want to know how to work with the source itself never commanded or encouraged or insisted that anyone ever worship it. No, only tyrants do that. I don't care what God you call or name as a God. If they demand that or their followers demand that, they are trapped on Earth, unconscious of everything they ever knew before they were born here. And they're following tyrants. And those tyrants in those planes are being surrounded now themselves and changed. Because they're not going to be allowed to do what they've done for billions of years anymore. And that has to do with being that's on the what call the Atma plane, first higher plane above the void. When people remember this stuff for themselves, everything changes. And you can remember this stuff while you're on Earth, while you're still alive. That's the whole point. There's no guarantee when your body dies you're going to go to some permanent heaven. Nobody's ever come back to this world and proved to anyone here that that's what happened to them. And the world hasn't changed for the better in thousands of years because of religion at all. Didn't prevent wars, world wars, didn't do any of that. All the gurus working on this planet for thousands of years didn't prevent any of that. Why? Many people are terrified of truth. They say they want it, but it isn't what they think it is on this planet. It's infinitely greater and wider and deeper than that. One of the things people on Earth have to get over is this arrogant, egotistical nonsense that human beings are the epitome of creation and we're the only ones. Are you kidding? There's billions of planets out there, many with humans on them, more highly evolved, that are traveling the stars, that have physical bodies that know how to leave them, get in them, raise their kids that way. And people on Earth are being kept ignorant of all that. And that goes back in galactic history of the end of the war and how Earth was designated in a treaty at that time. Like a Switzerland. Poles flipping. It was never a stable planet. So you could do experimental research on Earth from different groups under treaty. Small stations, negative, positive beings, tyrants, good people. And when the poles would flip, which they couldn't control at the time, they would leave, or leave if you brought slaves here to do your mining, your dirty work. You just leave them behind with shut down genomes, manipulated, so they don't live very long and they don't remember. And you get a whole planet of people like that now. From every race. And the races that are on this planet didn't originate here. None of them. Not one. I'm telling you, they didn't originate on this Earth. Human beings did not evolve here. I don't care if you're Chinese or Japanese or African American or Venusian or Aleutian or whatever you are, or Indian or American Indian or Eskimo or Aborigine, whatever you are, you did not originate on this Earth as a race. You were brought here generally as slaves at different points along Earth's history you don't remember, and left here. And it's a sad story. But that's all changing. First, the polar flips had to be permanently stopped. That's happened. No more golden age to iron age and back again for this planet. Other worlds don't have their poles flipped, so beings can evolve for hundreds of millions of years. You can't do that on Earth. Lemuria was grown to its point before it was destroyed, 100,000 years, wiped out in a single night. That's just one of many cultures that have been on this planet before then. And people on Earth once knew this before they were made to incarnate here, against their will, with their memory suppressed.
Scott, why other planets they have pole shift, but on planet Earth we had in the past?
What was that? That wasn't very clear. What?
Why other planets? You said they never have pole shift, right?
No.
And why our planet?
Well, I think people are going to have to discover that again for themselves. I wrote the Emerald Doorway book to help them do that. It's simple. That on that book is what the actual being, Atma or soul, looks like. And it isn't physical human being like this. This is not what we are, made in the image of the source, is that, not this. That little guy there, Etta, he's a Dren, he's silica-based. He's evolved on a planet under the oceans of a water-covered world in huge extinct volcanic caverns. Self-luminous minerals, algae that glows, it's self-involved environment. Their tail glows like an opal in sunlight. They actually evolved the ability to levitate, defy gravity, and fly through the air. A couple of 250 miles an hour. They have eyelids that close down over them and little diaphragms in their nose so they can do it. They're wonderful. Telepathic memory. They have photographic memory. They're telepathic. They have vocal cords, but they are not human beings. They are the most courageous beings you'll ever find. If a Dren ever befriended anybody on Earth, you'd have the best friend in the universe. They aren't human. But an Atma, like you, is running them. And that is what the source looks like. And we're just exactly the same as it, on a smaller scale. Like an atom of that looks just like that, sitting, and it's pure, sitting in an entire ocean of that same energy. What we are is made of exactly the same energy as that source, identical in every way. Not subservient to, not less than, part of it, individualized. And will always be that way. Our destiny is to one day return to the source of that with new ways of doing things. We're supposed to be returning from our experiences and lives here to that source and helping it find new ways to create the lower worlds, to get rid of the experiment of evil and this karma and reincarnation stuff, because that's coming. finally. It's only taken a couple 100 billion years, but things are changing. So I'll put that out there so that people can contemplate on it. And at some point, when they hear it, it will ring true for them because they'll begin to remember it for themselves. The Series Agenda book was written to document what really took place out in the universe. And the second part of it later in it is about what has yet to happen. It's not a psychic book. It's not a prediction of the future. It comes from the omnipresent first sound behind creation. And it's changing direction that knows what the future is. And so it gives people an insight into how to start to create this future by using their creative imagination properly. The creative imagination I speak of is not in the brain of a human being. You don't see into other worlds, into other dimensions with physical eyes. When you close them and you go into the trance state called sleep at night, and everybody on Earth's an expert at it, and they don't even know it. They leave their body every night, but they've never been brought up on a planet that educates them or trains them or disciplines them to use higher faculties to bring back what it is they're doing when that spherical form of them is out traveling, learning, co-creating. When they start to recover that, then they know they've got a body they're running on Earth, meaning that is running a body on Earth, and that's who you really are. And it has a body living in other dimensions, other lives, that this one energy sphere is running. They've been made to forget that too. This is all recoverable, reversible. It starts with a person beginning to understand real truth, not the fabrications dumped down their throats on Earth, but the real, gigantic, universal nature of the multidimensional creation, from the highest, way above the void, to the lowest here on Earth. Through the astral and emotional, causal and mental etheric. They're all there. They're all heavens, you might say. The four lower ones, the ones above the physical, before the void, have negative and positive and war and money and all kinds of weird things. People think are heaven. They aren't. And they aren't permanent places you can go and hang your hat for eternity either. Until a person recovers what their purpose is, which is to co-create intentionally new ways of doing things for the uplifting benefit of all life with that source through its omnipresent living energy that supports all of it. Until they do that, they won't have the freedom to play in the multiverse. They're going to be stuck on Earth thinking they're a body because they can't be trusted with any of it. Thinking that way. It's dangerous and destructive. Look at the world. People on Earth are dangerous and destructive. Or they support dangerous and destructive people without even understanding why they're doing it. And then they all think, can you go to a restaurant and you see people just doing what they do every day without thought, without regard, without compassion, without concern for the animal life on this planet, the plant life, or anything else, and they think that's normal, and that would please the source somehow? No. It doesn't, and it won't. A normal being derives its energy from a field of energy that is not nuclear in nature. The core of that being, you see in that poster behind you, the white core, it's on the cover of the book, the Series Agenda, or on the Emerald Doorway rather, is not nuclear. There are no atoms or protons or electrons in any of that. It has layers of light, and each teardrop in each layer is a higher faculty of being. It's a godly ability or goddess ability. That being is supposed to learn by running bodies, which are genetic experiments. This kind of body is a higher form that was created in its right functioning to handle higher faculties and energy coming through it so that even the being on Earth can know. But the people on Earth aren't conditioned this way. They're not trained this way at all, anywhere. It's no wonder they wake up as an adult and suddenly realize I don't know how I got here. Where am I? And they can't find anybody on earth that will help them remember it. So what do they have? Something to believe in. Not know, not experience, just believe. It's a good place to start, belief, but it's a terrible place to end up because you never know. You die in faith, you die in a belief. And when you go and meet beings when you're out of this body, many of them may look nice, but they're going to encourage you to reincarnate on this planet with no memory. Again, so you can do God's will kind of thing. And that's deception. People on earth have already been caught. You can't get out of your body and be trapped by a negative being. You're already here on a planet with no memory. That's past history. That was already done. The sooner people on earth discover this, the better they can get mastery over it and kick it out and wake it up and return to who they are. My work is only about that, nothing else. Yes, extraterrestrials involved, and I work with millions of them and different master teachers on different dimensions every single day while I'm here on this earth. There isn't any government or anybody here that can intervene in that or prevent it, or they wouldn't even want to, because why I'm here is for their benefit too. And they know that now as well. And it's true. I'm not here to harm anyone or get government people that are classically been lying to everybody and think, shot or hurt or harmed or any of that. No. Nobody I know out in the universe wants that. But they do want those people to recover and not be operating from subconscious programs that make them make the wrong decisions on a daily basis about this whole world. Because they were put into that position so that some other race could dominate them and try to get control of this planet. Hitler and his people were set up from extraterrestrials to wipe out 3/4 of the population of this planet. And that was what they were intending to do. It didn't work. Something stopped it. Nuclear war has been stopped on this planet. Number of times, that's classified, but not by people on Earth. And I'll leave it at that, because people need to discover this for themselves. And I'm speaking about not only listeners on the radio show, but, well, if classified people are listening to it, that's going to benefit them too. That's the way it works. They aren't doing what they're doing of free will, even if they think they are. I think way down deep they know they're not. And they've been trying to get out of that trap for a long time. Something manipulated them against their will by technology and experience that people on Earth at the end of World II didn't have. They didn't see it coming at all. They couldn't have seen it coming. If there hadn't been other beings intervening just enough, this world would have gone up in nuclear war a long time ago. So I don't have fear about the future at all, none whatsoever about nuclear war on this planet, because they're not going to be allowed to do it. And they know it. Once they disclose this to the public and get off this stuff, they can start to be a benevolent government. People can be told the truth. Everything will work ever so much better. And then beings can come here and get rid of the pollution in the water and the air and get rid of oil and do all this. Nobody will want it. Not even the people that run oil companies today will want it. They won't want it. People will become conscious of abilities and aspects that have been closed down on them, and they'll simply move to different positions. As we call it a job, whatever. And those doors will be provided. It's a practical thing. When people stop doing the old way of doing things, something better takes its place. It's as simple as that. I know it's really, for most people, a fearful thing to let go of the old ways people are attached to, but those ways are ultimately destructive to all life on this planet. There is no future in them. No future in oil. All life will end here. Global warming, all life will end here. Nuclear war, all life will end here. The pollution in the water table, the drug industry, people that are being fed things and indoctrinated to take things that suppress symptoms but cure nothing, that will change. And the people that really think money's so important to sell things that harm people won't want to do it. They won't want to do it. That's the nature of what has to change here. And I don't see human beings in mass on this planet have enough true free will left in their being to change that in time on their own. They don't. It's going to take massive help from beyond this world to correct this twisted pretzel of a planet and its beings. And that has already begun. So let's go on a little journey. And when we do this, I endeavor to ask people to sit down, lie down. I don't know what that ding dong was. Somebody trying to tune into the show, or somebody talk to you, Perry?
No, I shut off my microphone.
I know, but I got a ding dong like you get when someone's joining the show.
Oh, no. Maybe I click on the wrong button somewhere.
Oh, that's okay. Okay, go ahead. So everybody, if you will, who wishes to do this and really wants to recover who they are, endeavor to go out of your body while your body's in the trance state called sleep. What do I mean by that? The same thing you do with that body every night on this planet, wherever you are. You're all experts at leaving your body, and you've been so hornswoggled and lied to and abused and programmed and brainwashed, not even just this life, that you don't understand that's what you're doing, and yet you have the expertise to make that body go into the trance state. You cause the pineal gland, the center of the brain, to secrete serotonin and make melatonin, and it puts the blood system, the heart rate, breathing on automatic while you go out. That's why your body is on the bed unconscious, because you're gone. Get it? You are. Just because you're on a world where none of that is taught or reinforced or encouraged while you're growing up, therefore you don't use any of your higher faculties. They're sitting there turned off, just don't even know they're there. So what we're doing in these sessions is going out of our body. The body's put in the trance state just like you do at night, but you're staying consciously aware, you the round being, the spherical you, and then we go off on these journeys. Because it's only this part of you that can know the multiverse, know the source, communicate with it and other beings in it, and understand it. The human brain and human body on Earth is not capable of that. But you, the being that's running that human body on Earth, is capable of it. So let's make that point clear first. Take several deep breaths. When you breathe out, just breathe out all your concerns about life, whether it's money or health, age of your body, whether you've got a disease or not, love affairs, family, relatives. Just for now, they're going to be fine on Earth. Your body's going to go into a trance state. It's going to be fine. Put it on a shelf, put it in a computer card, put it in a computer disk, put it on the side, on the carpet or on a bed or on the desk. Just imagine it, that you're putting away all fear, all doubt, all speculation, all debate, all anger, terror, all negative emotions. Just dump them. You'll pick them up when we come back with the body when you awaken it. This is how this works. Then imagine someone you love and respect and you're grateful they are in your life. A person, a place, or a thing, but something that's genuine. When you imagine it, it just makes you smile, glow inside. It could be a kid, it could be a pet, a savior, it could be a past spiritual adept or someone in the heads of a religion. If it does that for you, fine. The point is you want to do something that opens your heart. The opening the heart has nothing to do with the physical heart here. It has to do with opening a certain doorway through the pineal gland in the center of the brain that connects a conscious link to what you are, the real you, running that body. So that you're more conscious of what you are that isn't a physical body. I'm going to begin sending out these sounds, these tones of the hue. The first half of the word human, human being. It is not and did not get created on this planet. It isn't even native to the physical universe. It comes from the higher worlds long ago. And it's woven through the omnipresent first sound behind creation that underlies the black so-called void of space between planets and moons and stars and galaxies and dimensions. Even scientists on Earth know that dark matter isn't dark at all. It only appears dark to eyes, physical eyes, that cannot detect frequencies beyond a certain limited range. And that's up here. Instruments can detect it. Beings can see it through electronic devices that allow them to see it as a mock-up of what it looks like. But it's really a white light with a gold tinge, filling all the black so-called void of space. And everything in it, every galaxy, every planet, every moon, every dimension, every doorway, interdimensional vortex, like a concentric generator connecting different higher and lower frequencies of planes, vibrating at different molecular time rates in all the 4 lower dimensions below the void, are in it, floating in this other energy that is not made up of nuclear matter. It is energy, but not as people understand it. They're beginning to understand a little bit of it at the CERN Super Collider, a large hadron collider in CERN, Switzerland. When they crashed particles, they discovered there's this kind of energy behind nuclear matter that's in everything, even in the void of space. And it doesn't obey the normal laws of physics the way they expected it to, and it never will, because it actually, everything is floating in it. And it's everywhere, and it's in all the planes. Human beings, or us, have the ability to communicate directly with that. And that communicates directly with the source, many higher dimensions above the void, that we originally all came from as the Atman, not one of these. I send these tones out on an increasing higher pitch because it's connecting to each dimension that you've been made to forget. And the white core of your being will begin to become aware of these, will go on a journey. And it sets a doorway open for all these planes, and a protected field of energy comes through what's called the new ray in the hue. The new ray is a new consciousness that got created in the upper worlds that's manifesting down in the lower worlds now, that retires evil as an experience in the consciousness of people, the positive, the negative, all that doubt and fear and stuff, replaces it with the motivation to create only that which will be of uplifting benefit to all life, not just life on earth. I'll begin those tones now. Hue. What that's really doing is opening a kind of a vortex of the new ray in the hue, the omnipresent first sound behind all creation, which is not molecular, nuclear in nature. But the CERN super collider scientists call it a God particle because they don't know what else to do with it yet. Anyway, it provides a way for us to meet with beings from other worlds people on Earth are not allowed to know about yet publicly. Very highly evolved, many of them human, some not. But kind, wondrously, well experienced, highly trained, masterful teacher beings. They come from different dimensions and different planets in our solar system, in our galaxy, Andromeda, other galaxies, astral, causal, mental, etheric. Some of them come from the higher worlds to join us on these journeys because where we go, they learn. They are capable of contributing beneficially to all of us, but they also learn from us as we journey. What's amazing to them is that people so trapped, so closed down on Earth can go on a journey like this and co-create and go where we go with all of them. Because people on Earth aren't supposed to be able to do that. But of course, the Atma that runs the body on Earth can do it when it becomes aware of this as a fact. Imagine yourself standing by a beautiful waterfall out in nature in some place that seems good to you, on Earth or any planet, and you're just looking out at the sun heading towards the horizon to set in the west. You can feel a cool spray of mist that just wafts over to you from a little breeze and sprinkles your face, and you can smell the scent of gardenias and lavender and lilacs and different things like this on the breeze. And when you breathe, you can feel the air going through your lungs and right out your back in every direction. And when you breathe out, it's like it's coming right through your entire body. And you're smiling because it's a blissful serenity of being type of experience. It's very easy to do this. You do it when you daydream, when you're just idly looking out a window somewhere. Your eyes are open, but then you're starting to see yourself by a giant redwood tree or out in nature on the beach somewhere. People do it very well when they're not thinking about that it takes a lot of effort or it's a struggle. And they do it all the time. But when they see whatever it is they're imagining, they're not doing it with their physical eyes. The physical eyes are looking out, seeing what's out the window. But you, the real being up above that body, running it, the spherical you, can see this. And it's in some other reality somewhere, either on Earth or in a parallel or higher dimension or another world. So the first thing people become aware of is when they're imagining, the brain in their head does not do that. The brain, the gray matter in between the skull of a human being, is not designed to imagine anything, and it doesn't at all. The being running that body and that brain is what sees things through the imagination. The imagination is not made up in the brain. It's actually a higher faculty of seeing both light and sound in matter, time and space, and beyond it in the hue itself. And it can do this from the white core of its being or from one of the faculties and one of the colors of the outer layers that make up its spherical form as the soul, the Atma, the real you. It's indestructible. Hydrogen bomb could not harm one. Bodies can be ruined instantly with such things, but not the Atma that runs bodies. The destiny of a human being is to become a co-creator, trustworthy with the source itself. Not a co-slave, not a worshiper, a co-creator with it. It means that we, collectively, here and in other planes, actually create or do not create a change in the destiny and the nature of all creation. Because we come from that source originally, and we're still co-creators with it, whether we remember this or not. Find yourself suddenly hovering in the black void of space above planet Earth, just as easily as you imagined a waterfall or a hummingbird. You just see yourself up there. As a sphere of energy, you don't need to breathe oxygen. You don't feel cold or heat. There's no radiation that bothers you. And you'll see that there are many other beings hovering up in the void of space above planet Earth with you. And when you look from the white core of your being at this so-called black void of space, it turns white with a golden tinge, and it's everywhere, filling the depth between the moon, which is crater and pockmarked, does not turn on its axis, and the Earth and the sun and other planets, the galaxy, other galaxies, other dimensions, higher dimensions, are all supported and floating in this white energy field that is not nuclear. That is the best way I have of describing what people call Holy Spirit. However, the Holy Spirit thing on Earth, it's something that we're meant to communicate directly with and co-create properly with it. It's not meant to satisfy our every whims. We're meant to co-create new ways of doing things for its benefit and for the benefit of the master teachers that work in it on every plane. As human beings, we're supposed to help create new ways for them, not just always say, gimme, gimme, gimme. See, that's the difference. The consciousness needs to be turned around. Not only are people not bodies, but they need to understand what it is they are that is not a body that's running a body, not the other way around. And when you look around, you can see a friend of mine. His name is Ambassador Torelli, and he's of the Say-Rays race. It's spelled S-E-R-E-S in English, but it's pronounced as if it was spelled S-A-Y-R-A-Y-S, Say-Rays. They are human. We get our genomes for this type of body we run from them originally in galactic history. They did not originate in the Milky Way or Andromeda galaxies, and they were responsible for, in part, bringing these kind of bodies into creation with higher genetic structures that beings could run and be consciously working their higher faculties of awareness of being through them, through the nervous system, through the brain, properly conditioned, properly prepared, which people on Earth are not. And they brought these bodies of different forms and different worlds in both the astral and physical worlds into spacefaring capability and then departed this scene, disappeared, vanished long ago. 1 billion years ago, they immortalized their physical bodies. That does not mean they made a body 36 stay physical 36. It means they dissolved, dematerialized that body, took and stored it in one of these teardrops in their being. And whenever they wish, they can move free of the laws of physics anywhere in creation and manifest a full body you could go up and touch. Use it as long as it's needed, then dematerialize it back. That's true immortalization of a physical form. There are beings on worlds in the galaxy that live 1,000 to 10,000 or more years in human forms, even like the ones we have. But they don't have shut down genomes on some of the DNA like the people of Earth have had done to them. So it's harder to work hard faculties through a body that has what people used to call junk DNA, DNA that's not on. Scientists and people on Earth even today know that's not junk DNA, it's just turned off. can be turned back on. Turelian is hovering there in space with us, and Perry and I and many other beings that I know as master teachers, who I respect. They also respect me, as does Turelian, and likewise me for him. And these are co-creators, co-workers in bringing about a change through the new ray and the hue, not just for planet Earth, for billions of worlds on many levels in parallel dimensions in all of the lower dimensions below the void. What does that mean? It means in creation, there is the physical dimension, parallel dimension, vibrating at a 1 molecular time rate that people on Earth see, and they see through the Hubble telescope or through a space shuttle, someone with cameras on it looking out in space, particularly Hubble, or radio telescopes. They see all these galaxies, billions of them out there. And those exist only in this parallel time rate frequency. In parallel dimensions, the molecules all vibrate at a slightly higher frequency, and so forth, until 144 of them are reached, a specific number. Then there's a barrier you cross to get into what's called the astral level, the next major division of creation up. In that place, all the molecules vibrate at the same time rate. But in that particular place, every matter and all things are put together and moved by emotion, feeling. All emotion comes from there, from a life people are living there. They don't even remember they are doing it. And they're running a physical body on Earth and don't remember any of that. Yet the being that's running that body unconsciously is running that other body too. One on the causal, mental, and etheric, simultaneously. If you want to be enlightened and awake, you need to be aware of your so-called higher selves and where they reside. Because most people's higher selves are not really enlightened enough to want to help them down here, like people think. They have to get enlightened here enough to encourage those beings to work with each other. And there are beings who will go with you to do that. They can get them moving in the right direction, especially now. So there's 144 parallel dimensions in each of those planes until you get to what's called a void, which is a massive area of energy that looks empty. It's not dark. It just doesn't seem to be anything in it. Some people on Earth think that's it, the realm of the Supreme Being. You can't go further. This is not true. If you know how to get across that void, the other side, there are other dimensions and planes up there that are called pure positive, that don't have the positive and negative elements working through them. You create cause there, but there's no effect. For the most part, there's no suns and moons and planets and galaxies up there. The whole creation's floating in different types of energy that people work on and work in to create new ways of doing things to ultimately change the way the lower dimensions work. We were supposed to take care of the lower dimensions like gardens and get them to be mirrors of the upper worlds. That's never been successful. It never happened in hundreds of billions of years. That is now for the first time underway. And it cannot be reversed, fortunately. My job is to help people make the bridge between all they don't know and all they used to know. And then it's to help them make the bridge into knowing more than they've ever known in a billion lifetimes on many worlds in many dimensions. They were forced to forget all about them. When you look down on the Earth, you see the polar ice caps of the planet from space, floating up there as a being. Space shuttle's got nothing on us. They don't even fly that anymore. It's retired. So what are they using to get in space if they don't use that anymore? People are so easily misled and manipulated on Earth. They went to the moon in the Apollo program, 50 some whatever years ago? And now the vice president of the U.S. is talking about going back to the moon like it's a big deal in rocket ships, and they're going to use the private sector to take their astronauts there. It's just more misinformation for the public because they don't use rocket ships to get around anymore in the classified arena. You might as well know it now. You hear it from me. You're going to hear it from them officially one day anyway. But you can all begin to make this journey into recovering what you are capable of knowing long before disclosure occurs worldwide. And this is a good thing because it helps you get ready. Planet Earth is destined from outside Earth to take its place among the stars and be given the technology and the healing that it would be required to be able to trust people from Earth playing out among the stars so that they're not reactive and fear-driven and destructive. Because the beings that are out there, I know, who are hovering in orbit around Earth right now with us, will never tolerate it, ever. People from Earth who do not work in one world benevolent governed system and have no place really playing in the stars and negotiating any kind of real lasting treaties with anybody I know about there. Because they just want to take their abusive technology and their secrecy out there and try to project that on other races far more advanced than them. It is never, ever going to happen. Ever. This is something people on Earth are becoming aware of, classified and unclassified, and it's something they're going to have to become more accepting of the fact that we're meant to join other races, not have them join us. On many world systems I know of, money isn't even allowed. It's illegal. Because tyrants have used it on Earth to control masses of people for ages. And the idea of it did not get created on this planet either. I'm not saying don't use it or don't go buy food with it, because everybody's brainwashed to accept it, so you better, until everybody on Earth doesn't want it anymore. And that's possible too. Advanced worlds don't barter. They don't trade. They share openly everything they can create and learn for the benevolent good of all life. They don't charge each other money. You can see how much this world's going to have to change just to come into spacefaring capability, because all the technology and ships, everything will be given to us. You don't even have to pay for it. Forget about disease. That's easy stuff for these folks. Living 1,000 years in a body, you wouldn't want to do that unless you had the freedom to consciously leave that body and get back into it at will. Otherwise, it's like a 1,000-year prison. There's Torellian, looks like us, and we're hovering around him in a circle. He serves as a focal point so that we don't get scattered out in the vast universe and not do anything constructive. You're going to see some master teachers I know of. One has a short cropped curly black beard and black curly hair, wears a maroon robe and simple sandals, and holds a crystal staff made of quartz with the Egyptian Ankh symbol on it for eternal life, with a cross through it. It's a device. And it isn't a device that was made in the lower worlds, but it exists in the lower worlds. And he's guardian of one of three. All right, I won't get into that now because it's not important. There is a woman adept or master teacher, appears to be 36, and she's been running the physical body she has, quite beautiful. It's over 100,000 years old. And she's actually stationed on Earth. People don't even know where she is or what she does. There's an adept named Master Opelum from a planet called Oceania, which is in the third parallel dimension, 2 molecular time rates up from where we live on the Earth you're accustomed to. And he's hovering there around with us. He goes on these journeys voluntarily to not only learn that we're capable of doing what we're doing from out of nowhere on Earth with no memory and suddenly go on these journeys, but they contribute telepathically with us in ways that are unexpected. They can offer a gift sometimes. They can do something to boost us along a bit if we're ready. There's a being hovering there as an Atma, looks just like us, beautiful orb. And then you see a body projected out in front of him. And it looks like Edda on the front cover of the Emerald Doorway book. He's 3 feet long from the tip of his nose to his tail. He has bulbous blue eyes, a little long snout, a beautiful pale green skin. It's not like a salamander. It's not wet. And his hands and feet are muscular, and his hands and feet are like human. They're very dexterous, 5 fingers, 5 toes, and a tail that, while he's hovering there, it glows like crystal opal in bright sunlight. It's transparent when it turns on, and it allows him to defy gravity. Now, this is an energy projection of the body he has on another world. So you can see what he's like, and not just see the Atma. Unless you get used to telepathically talking with Atmas, you just see a bunch of spheres that all look alike. And he is a master teacher, but he's not human. He's fun. He does antics. He dances in the air. He does all kinds of goofy stuff. Courageous to a fault. Telepathic, has vocal cords, likes to sing. He could speak with you in any language, which the Master Opelum helped that race develop back on their home world where the Drens evolved under the ocean. And he loves his wife and kids more than human beings on Earth understand yet. And if he befriends you, he would die for you to protect you. That's a Dren. You cannot acquire a better friend anywhere in the universe. They're wonderful beings, but they are not human. His race developed out of silica. It's a silica-based creature, not carbon like us. And he's an old friend. As we're hovering there in space, you look and see the moon with all of its craters, pockmarked. And you see that that moon does not turn on its axis. It always shows the same face towards Earth as it turns around the Earth. Same face all the way around. So we don't see what goes on the backside of that moon, and that's where a classified space program has been centered for many, many years, because you can't see what's going on there with optical or radio telescopes. Best place to have something classified. You don't want the rest of your fellow people on Earth to see. And that was done covertly in association with tyrant beings, not from Earth. And that was one of the biggest mistakes governments on this Earth ever made. To get old, antiquated extraterrestrial technology, they traded their freedom for it, not really realizing it was being done to them until it was too late. Now they too are beginning to be extricated from that trap by beings who have escorted tyrant beings, the few that were here off planet, from bases on Earth, out of our solar system. And our solar system right now is quarantined. That means people from Earth are not allowed to fly craft, reverse engineer or otherwise, beyond our solar system. And it's policed because people as they are on Earth are destructive and untrustworthy and unreliable and deceptive and dishonest. Playing with nuclear weapons and ray guns, it's just silly. They're going to think they're going to take that kind of stuff out among the stars and go raid other worlds and get their minerals. It ain't never, ever going to happen. Because space, in fact, is already occupied by far more advanced races, including human. We got to have to step up to them, not the other way around. Earth is quarantined. It's not a bad thing. It's not suppressive. But it does prevent a few wondrous things. Nuclear war, from one. The 7 billion or so people on Earth who are unconsciously operating bodies who can't even get along from one neighbor to the next, much less one country, right now do not have the right and never have had the right, nor will they ever have the right, to blow up their own planet in an irresponsible, childish nuclear war that could harm billions of beings they don't even know exist. Nature spirit elements, doorways from Earth and many places that go to vast areas of the universe that are guarded, and it would pollute through them, and it would harm space travel, and it could do many things. And no race out among the stars collectively is going to allow this planet to do that, because we don't have the right to inflict our stupidity and ignorance, greed and fear on other races out there, and they're not going to tolerate it. This is just common sense. The sooner people on Earth get common sense back, the better off they'll operate and make better decisions for their own good. This is the nature of what world we're living on, and the nature of races out among the stars you've been kept from knowing about. But that is not to be forever. A real and complete disclosure is underway. And it is a way being done in such a way that will benefit all life on the planet. It's not about targeting elite Illuminati or something like this, or royal families. No, that would never work. That just sets up negative repercussions in space-time, because it's a negative attacking a negative. It's pointless. It doesn't solve anything. So you have to get everybody waking up from this madness. It's common sense. There isn't any other way to do it. Or you set up repercussions of the same thing for another billion years, and nothing changes. We're going on a little journey. And when you look at Turelian hovering as a beautiful spirit, we're hovering around. Look around, you're going to see men and women. You're going to tell they're female and masculine. They're a human for the most part. And there is a couple assigned to each person on this journey who's listening. They're kind. You feel safe, uplifted. You're hovering in space. There's no threat. No government on Earth can interfere when we're out in space, like they can't interfere. We're in a frequency as Atmas that they can't touch with weapons or technology, psychotronics, scalar waves, beam weapons, you name it. They can't penetrate what we're doing. And they'll never be able to, because we're operating outside of time and space right now as Atmas, as soul. You'll hear a tone begin to hum above your head. Like that, but it sounds like millions of men and women's voices in perfect clarity, singing this sound on many levels. They're connecting into the underlying current of living force that's underlying everything. And then it turns into one whole sound, blends. And it's a huge, round, lovely humming sound. And you can feel it vibrating the white core of your being, and vibrating the different layers of color in these different teardrop shapes to a golden halo around you in a good way. And then it moves through you and keeps going out into space, passes right through you, right through the white core. And that white core is a white light with a gold tinge, just like the energy that's moving through us. As it passes through you, you'll hear, well, you could hear a voice that simply says, you're on your journey home. And I don't mean home to the astral plane or the lower dimensions. And this is a journey we make while our bodies on Earth are still alive, hopefully. Because it changes consciousness on Earth. You're going to see a doorway open, an energy vortex that looks like blue and green swirling water, like a cyclone. And it opens up into a door with little blue stars around it. And Turelian goes right up in it, and all of us, and there are actually 200 other beings joining us. 2 around each person, and a master teacher from another world who's simply there to be of benefit to the participants who are going on this journey, who are, I want to say, doing what we're doing with their imagination, not just listening. And we go up through this vortex, and as you're moving up through it as a sphere, safe and sound, you know your body back on Earth is safe, it's breathing, it's in the trance state called sleep, if you're doing this with us, and it's fine. There is an energy connection between the white core of your being and the pineal gland, the center of the brain, and it cannot be broken. It's not an astral cord or a silver or golden cord. Cannot be broken by any negative power, being, or misuse of technology. You'll never have to fear this, because I'm telling you the truth. When you discover this is true for yourself, things change dramatically. in awareness. We're moving up through this whirling blue-green water-like swirl of energy, luminous, and suddenly we come out the other side, and we are on a dimension that has nothing in it. I mean, it just looks like a big, it doesn't even have color, but it's not black. It just looks like it's empty. And then when you look more closely, you see that it's filled with this white light, like the dark matter that's not really dark, in space between planets in our galaxy. And there's a white gold, it's kind of a golden tinge with it, and we're moving at a very fast speed. With Torellian, we're all moving around in a direction, like a little group galaxy of beings, moving in a direction, and far off in the distance, you begin to see a little point of light. And then it begins to whiten. And then it begins to expand into a white golden beach that goes in every direction, straight as an arrow. And then we suddenly pass over the top of this beach, and there are giant jewel trees and beautiful fruit trees and palm trees and prehistoric ferns and flowers 4 feet high. These birds that come out to greet us that have long V-shaped split tails. They look like a blue jay with bulbous blue eyes that slightly wrap around their head. And they have 2 sets of bird wings, like a hummingbird, one above the other. Like a hummingbird, like a dragonfly, but they're birds. And they're singing the most beautiful vocal cords, beautiful voices, this wonderful melody. And there's dozens of them lined up in 2 rows just looking at us. And when you look, you see Atmas hovering above those bird bodies. These are Atmas on this plane that have chosen to run these bodies, these very much higher genetic bodies of birds, and they can run their higher faculties to it, so they can see what it's like to be a bird and fly in the air. And they're just simply greeting us, and then they fly off, go off in the trees, and we're moving over the top of this jungle, and we see in the distance a crystalline-type palace against a snow-covered mountaintop, a series of mountains, and waterfalls cast. It's all luminous. And you see down below a botanical garden in a big circle. And in the center, a white marble floor. And there's a fountain sitting on a blue pedestal, the round cylinder up on it, and then it's got a scalloped white alabaster type stone with scalloped edges. And there's a being, a statue, in bare feet with a white tunic from the waist down, bare-chested, with 2 golden bracelets on his upper arms. And a bald head, looks to be about 36, broad skin, and he has his hands down to his side, the palms out, and this white light with a golden tinge is pouring from his palms into this bowl, filling it, and then it flows over the side of these scalloped edges in a smooth, glowing sheet and vanishes in the ground. And when you look to the right, you're going to see a being standing there. It's like a physical human being. And it is the being the statue represents. And this guy runs this. This is the first plane of the higher worlds. It's the Atma plane. It's the place that you as an Atma embarked from before you went over the void into the lower worlds to get stuck down here. Long ago. Even the Satnam, is his name, has gone through a change in consciousness to help change the governors of the lower worlds that have been tyrants from the inside out. And he's just observing us hovering there. He can see us quite clearly. He knows we're coming. And he asks all of us to go and take a drink from this fountain. You're going to see 12 golden cups appear on golden hooks around it. And you just hover in the air. And you just see one of these golden cups go in and dip it in this white light with a golden tinge and come over up above your head and pour it in down through the sphere of your being into the white core. And it brightens it, and then goes out through all the layers, and then continues out into this realm. You can move into the statue itself as it turns into a shaft of white light with a golden tinge. The statue disappears because that energy is coming from planes very much further above this world. There is no nature of any negative kind, emotional or otherwise, or mental here. You can't bring it with you. Only the pure you, the real Atma, can travel over the void to get to this world. And that is what you've just done. It wouldn't be the first time you've done it, but it'd be the first time you've done it in some cases, millions, even hundreds of millions of years. Move inside that shaft of white light, which is roaring up and down. It won't harm you. All of you move into it and float in it. You're going to see this Satnam guy hover above his own body, lift up the ground and turn into a sphere and come inside it with you. Now he's going to speak to each and every one of you. This character, this being means true name. It just means the first manifestation in any form that appears physical, that stands between the infinite light and sound and the created universes. It's his function, is what he does, in part. And he's going to tell you all that he knows who you are and that you originated from this plane before you got stuck in the lower worlds. And in fact, you originated from a plane far above him, long ago. And you were never made of physical matter. The human being is not a human body. He's going to make that clear to all of you now. Consider this an initiation into recovering all you once knew with certainty before you were made to forget through terror and to doubt yourself and everything you ever knew. And all you're left with on earth is uncertainty, doubt, fear, speculation, arguments, anger, theory, no certainty of anything. That's not your normal state. Here in this world, there is nothing of a negative nature that could cross that void. So you're here without anything of any negative nature, remembering this is who and what you really are. You can hear those birds singing now inside this beam of light, and suddenly they appear around us singing. And the atmas running these little bird bodies comprised of energy of this plane are not molecular. And the true beings running those forms are hovering above them, just to say hello. We're just like you. Then you find yourself suddenly hovering outside this shaft of light, and the shaft of light returns to the statue of Satnam, pouring the white light with the gold nectar down into the bowl, disappears to the ground and goes through the void, fills it, and then it sustains the lower dimensions. You can see Satnam standing there. It's a circular marble floor surrounded by a botanical paradise, and he's just smiling with his arms folded. Then you think about your Earth, and you think about hovering in space, or you visualize hovering in space above planet Earth, and you're suddenly there, all the way down the plains, hovering around Turelian, looking at the polar ice caps of our planet, the oceans and land and the barren, pockmarked, crater-marked moon. And suddenly it's like a heat wave moves over the field of white light, the golden tinge connecting the Earth to the moon, and you see it change. And you see the Earth now has no polar ice caps. It's in the same place, and it has mostly ocean and a huge continent centered over the equator from the left to the right hemisphere. It extends about 2/3 of the way upward. Here's a planet. It goes kind of like this. It comes down like this, 2/3 of the way down towards the South Pole. And there's a half moon base-shaped green emerald beach glowing. You can see all the way down on Earth. And when you look over to see where the moon is here, it has atmosphere and oxygen and clouds and mountains and rivers and streams and 5 dome cities on the surface. It's not overcrowded. And you can look right through it and see there's a dome city on the backside of that moon. But it's turning on its axis as it revolves around the Earth. This is in a parallel dimension, 3 molecular time rates up from the one you're used to. And there's an Earth in the same place at a higher frequency that has been there for ages, that beings from other worlds and master adepts can come to in safety. It's a protected place. And they can come from there down into the Earth world we know and do work and go back. And let's just say their hands were tied in a spiritual sense for a very long time because of the laws of the lower worlds that are changing. And they're able to do a lot more for beings now to help them remember than they could. Oh, past about 7.5 Earth years ago now, things changed. The future destiny of Earth altered significantly and permanently in a new, unexpected direction. People that are aware begin to see it, even on Earth. You're going to find yourself suddenly down in that planet's atmosphere, hovering at here's the continent, here's the big world, Earth, and you're hovering above this half-moon base-shaped, mile-long, emerald sandy beach, and it's glowing a green light about a foot above the sand. And if you look at the particles of that sand, they're little polished, transparent, clear green emeralds that make up this sand. And you're going to feel bare feet, your bare feet. They're really an energy projection of feet in this dimension while your body's in the trance state on Earth back there. And you feel your feet sink into the sand, an energy charge, cooling and warm at the same time, runs up your leg. And it goes up into the white core of your being, hovering above the body that looks like you. About 36 years old, perfectly healthy, perfectly formed. And it looks up and sees you, the real you, and smiles because you're both at the same time. And you send an energy down to that body, appreciative, and smile back at it because it's allowing you to feel the tactile sensation of this green energy run into your being. And then it goes into the white core of your being, turns it green for a moment, then passes out through the layers to the green layer. The being that you are has a white core, then it becomes like an orange level, and then fiery red, and then it becomes like a green, then blue, then violet, then lavender, and then a kind of a gold energy around it. And each of these layers, separated by a distance, has teardrop shapes in a number of levels around it, glowing independently, and they are higher faculties. They are what you look through and connect with to know not only past lives, but how to look into the universe and know what's on other planets, on ships, talk to people telepathically, or go all the way up to the high worlds, where we just were. Now we're orbiting above a different planet, Earth, on the beach, with our feet in the sand. And then you feel your feet vanish. And you look up, and there's a brown path, 3 feet wide, leading a mile inside these giant jungle trees and massive prehistoric-looking ferns, and these beautiful birds with the blue, long V-scales, V-split tails are also here. They were brought here to make the place lively and beautiful and fun. And at the end of that mile pathway, you see a white marble floor. It's circular. And we're suddenly there. You can see the statue of a woman standing there, 10 feet tall, with a transparent quartz body, perfect quartz. Big angel wings sticking out behind her, but they're not representative of angels or any religion on Earth. It represents the ability of the being to run a body highly refined like this, human, not from Earth, and also be able to leave it as if it were transparent. And she's got her palms up at her hands like this statue, and they're glowing green. And when you see it, you see down the beach, down this brown pathway a mile to this glowing beach, and she's lighting it up. This is an energy that takes this form of color, and it's designed to work in your being to help you remember all you were made to forget. It's a gift. If you look through this transparent quartz statue, this woman has violet eyes. You can see it right through the quartz, and long silver hair that looks like silver metal, but you know it's soft. Pointed ears like an elf, and a gold band around her forehead with a teardrop-shaped emerald crystal faceted. And you can look into that crystal and see through it. There is this actual woman standing up in the air in a green mist inside the statue. And you're going to find yourself suddenly in that statue with Torelli and the rest of us hovering around her. She is from a planet called Zeontornaman, from a race called Zeontornamus, 180 degrees on the other side of the Milky Way galaxy. It is a planet that has 3 sun systems, a trinar system, big, slightly smaller, and this smaller, circling around a big one, then planets around it. And there are 3 Earth-like sized moons, beautiful, with dome cities, clear, oxygen atmosphere, everything perfect. And the big planet is 4 times bigger than Earth. And you can see dome cities down on it, and a desert-like environment like in Sedona, Arizona, but green and verdant, and streams running through it. And you suddenly find yourself standing on her world. And in the distance, you can see a huge clear dome city covering 3 golden-sided pyramids with quartz tips and an ivory-colored dome centered in between them at the base. And when you look up, you see these 3 moons, and they have dome cities all around them, and land masses everywhere, no polar ice caps, and water between all the land. Quite spectacular. And while you're walking on the ground in the valley between another opening in a cave and that dome city in the distance, she approaches you with her husband. She's 10 feet tall. She's taller than us. They have longer necks, longer fingers, beautifully formed humans. Her body on this planet and her husband, who are the leaders of this world, and a huge race, a huge conglomeration of world systems, bigger than the Galactic Alliance, more than half the galaxy, recently joined with the Galactic Alliance that has most of the rest of the galaxy under their kind administration. They are presenting to you physical bodies here that are 3.5 million years old. That's a type of immortalization of a body because they have the mastery of genes, the molecular level, and they turn them on or off. They can keep bodies unaged forever, but they are not trapped in them. She's just showing you where she comes from. Then you're going to find yourself suddenly in that green atmosphere, hovering around her, standing in the air. And you can look through the green atmosphere and see the sides in front and back and above and below. You're inside this quartz statue, interdimensional doorway. It's a device. And she tells you that you're welcome to partake of this green energy, that their purpose for presenting this statue of her on this world, this earth world, 3 dimensions up from the one we know, it's a parallel dimension, is a gift to the beings. And she'll show you, she steps outside of her own crystal structure, hovers in the air with Terrell and points to the distance, and you look past this white marble floor on the other side away from the green beach, and you see a snow-capped mountain. And up there is a cavern with a beautiful luminous green waterfall tumbling down its side, thousands of feet. And there's another cavern above that. It's kind of a semi-sphere. It's little lighted domes, lights going down the sides. It leads to a place in Northern California, in Earth, in our parallel dimension, inside Mount Shasta. And you can see this dome city at the base of the mountain with blue-green forest trees surrounding it and 3 gold pyramids with quartz caps inside it. There are 3 blue pads. We're up over this now, suddenly from the beach. We're up over it looking. You can see 3 blue circular landing discs and 3 Galactic Alliance craft landed there. They have a blue-gray metal, a semi-clear blue top, 3 pods or semi-spheres underneath. They're on 3 little tripod legs, and they're landed there. That city is where master teachers teach people when they're out of their bodies at night. It's closer to Earth. It's a pure place. There's no pollution here. It's not in the astral. It's not in the high worlds. It's in a protected environment close to the Earth you're used to. And the beings inside that dome city are master adept teachers. And they can assist beings who can come here to recover all they once knew and who they really are, if you ask, if you want their help. When you look around you now, hovering above this dome city by this mountain, you can see these atmas hovering near you, hundreds of them. There's the man and the woman that's always been hovering next to you since we first met them above the Earth you're used to before we began this journey. And then there's a master teacher, a third being that approaches you. And each one of them will have a particular master teacher assigned to you. They are not tyrants. They will not do anything for you. They will help you recover knowing for yourself. That's how they work. And you can request their assistance or not, but they're offering it. Then you're going to find yourself above the Earth, looking down on this mostly water-covered Earth world with no polar ice caps, this continent, which is still called Lemuria today. And on the other side, you can see through it. There's a continent 2/3 its size, still referred to as Atlantis in Earth language or English today. But it's not the Lemurian Atlantis you know of that was destroyed, most of Atlantis, but a volcanic island 100,000 years ago in the Earth world you're used to, because its poles would flip. In this place, the poles never flip. And it is going to be utilized as a prototype to make the Earth and the Moon we have now like this when the time is right. When you're up above this Earth looking at it, you see a heat wave like a shimmering mirage in the desert, and then you see the Earth you're used to. We've just moved down 3 levels to a molecular time rate. There's the Moon with the craters, and you find yourself hovering in the atmosphere above the body that you have. You can see right down through the car, the building, the apartment, the home you're living in, and see it in the trance state called sleep. Smile kindly down upon that body and let this green energy from the green area around your being go through the white core of your being, down in the top of your head, into the pineal gland, and turn certain switches on. Turn on the greater use of your brain for one. Instead of 6 to 10%, we want to begin to use 100%. So it's gradually going to do that. And then let this energy pass through the body safely, and then it continues out through you, and it goes into 3 pyramids, 2 of which are the Earth's bottom deepest oceans, quite large, turned on. They aren't made of matter. They cannot be affected by militaries on Earth or anything else. And 1 hidden in a mountain in the Himalayas. They're a triangular set. And inside them are these fountains, like the one you saw of Satnam in the Atma plane. And there's flowing energy into the core of the Earth. And this green energy is flowing through you to the core of those pyramids. And then it's beamed out and through the planet and then out into space. And this is a gradual, continuous process. And with your permission, you're helping to co-create it because you're willing. Then you find yourself hovering above that body as the sphere, letting this memory of this journey come down into the consciousness of the brain and body that never had any of this growing up, and let it become a conditioning of memory that allows you to think in a multidimensional way, to start remembering how to work as an Atma, the real you. When you're ready, open your eyes.
You went on many places, many dimensions. No, Scott.
Well, yes. I mean, the purpose for that is to become flexible, to move as an Atma without the conditioning of time and space, gravity, black holes. None of that affects the movement of the Atma in this field of energy, which is not nuclear. It's not the law of physics. It comes before that was created. So I want to leave that with your listeners and wish them pleasant dreams. And if they wish, they can always get my book, any one of them, but the Series Agenda or the Emerald Door, they can put it under their pillow. If they don't speak English, if they can have this interpreted, they can put it under their pillow, and they'll meet with beings from the Galactic Alliance and some master adept teachers I know who can speak to them in their language and help them clearly remember. So I will leave everybody with that.
Okay, Scott, thank you.
You all done? Okay, good night. We'll see you on another journey. I'll stop the recording and we'll end this session now.